Discover the incredible moment a poor maid transformed everything by saving the billionaire's boy. Emma Thompson had always been the unsung hero of Maplewood, the suburban town where wealth and struggle danced a painful tango. At just 23, she wore her scars with pride, caregiver to her ailing mother, breadwinner for her struggling family, and the quiet heartbeat of her church's volunteer efforts. But each morning, as she donned her crisp Maid's uniform, dreams of adventure and hope floated just beyond her reach, like calming stars swallowed by the dawn. Then came that fateful sunny afternoon during the neighborhood picnic. Laughter mingled with the gentle sound of water lapping at the shore, families picnicking blissfully near the lake. It was a picturesque scene until it wasn't. Emma, collecting discarded plates, caught sight of little Jack, the golden-haired son of Maplewood's wealthiest family, slipping into the murky depths without a trace. Time froze as she witnessed the horror unfolding, his tiny hands clawing at the water, desperation etched onto his sweet face. Without thinking, she dove in. The water was cold, biting at her skin as she plunged below the surface, her heart pounding with a mixture of terror and determination. She surfaced, gasping for breath, Jack's small body cradled in her arms. When she pulled him to the bank, his eyes fluttered open, bright and bewildered. Relief washed over the crowd, mixed with disbelief. Just like that, Emma had become a heroine, but with the praise came duality. Some in the crowd cheered while others whispered behind their hands. Why was she here? They muttered. Does she belong in this space? It echoed like a painful reminder of Maplewood's glaring disparities. While Jack's wealthy parents wrapped her in gratitude, promising to honor her bravery, Emma could feel the chasm widen, the very fabric of her beloved community unraveling. In the days that followed, her act of bravery ignited roaring conversations across town. Emma became a local celebrity, splashed across newspaper headlines like a beacon of hope amid social strife. Yet, at home, the weight of her mother's illness pressed heavily upon her. Every moment of recognition seemed like a selfish distraction from the reality of her duties. The gratitude she felt twisted into anxiety. What if her family fell apart in her pursuit of this newfound spotlight? Then came the crowning insistence from Jack's mother, a lavish event to honor Emma in front of the whole town. The tension within Emma grew tighter. She longed for acknowledgement but also feared the judgmental gaze of the wealthier townsfolk, who might see her not as a hero but as a label, a poor maid amidst upper-class triumphs. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the event approached, a billionaire offered her a scholarship, an opportunity glittering with hope but laced with daunting questions. Did accepting it mean abandoning her family? Emma's heart raced, grappling with her identity, her worth, the struggles of her mother. She stood at a crossroads, glancing out at the lake where everything had begun. Each ripple in the water reflected a deeper question: what does it mean to truly rise above one's circumstances? Would she remain true to herself, her family, and her community in the process? The day of the event dawned brightly, but Emma felt a storm brewing inside her. The sun painted the neighborhood in golden hues, yet shadows whispered doubts into her mind. She wore the same Maid's uniform that had always symbolized her dedication, an artifact from a life that felt heavy now, dragging her down like the cool water she once pulled Jack from. As she got ready, her mother's voice echoed through the small apartment, fragile yet filled with warmth. You deserve this, Emma. Don't you dare let anyone steal your light. But Emma felt the weight of her mother's condition, the looming uncertainty. Accepting this scholarship could mean stepping beyond their shared struggles. Would it show her family loyalty? Or would it be a betrayal to the roots that bound them together? Arriving at the lavish estate of the Harringtons felt like entering a different world. White marble greeted her at the entrance, chandeliers swayed with elegance overhead, and laughter rang out, thick and sweet, drowning out any thoughts of fear. Guests milled around, sipping champagne, their designer outfits twinkling like ornaments under soft, ambient lighting that promised opulence. Emma was a stranger in this world, her worn shoes stark against the polished floors. Then she saw Jack playing with some children, his face lighting up like a fireworks display every time he laughed. Her heart warmed at his joy, but guilt gnawed at her, a reminder of the lives they led, so inherently different yet inexplicably linked. Jack ran over to her, his smile infectious. "Emma! You saved me!" he exclaimed, wrapping his small arms around her waist. Tears threatened to spill, but Emma held them back, squeezing him gently. "You're okay now, kiddo. That's what matters," she replied, forcing a smile. Jack's mother, Caroline Harrington, approached, wearing a gown that seemed to shimmer with every step. "Emma, darling, you look stunning." Caroline's voice was syrupy, dripping with kindness. But Emma could feel the underlying currents of judgment swirling around her. "I thank you," she managed, her voice shaky, as though she was teetering on the edge of a precipice. The atmosphere grew tense when nods of approval quickly shifted to whispers and quick glances from the gathering crowd. Why would she be honored? Is this the right place for her? The murmurs bounced around like an unwanted echo. In that moment, Emma understood, the celebration wasn't just for her bravery, it was a spectacle, a reminder of what they believed she couldn't truly belong to. The accolades, once a light in her darkness, wore the mask of condescension now. She felt like an imposter caught in the soft glow of lavish praise. Caroline, seemingly oblivious to the undercurrents, smiled wide and clapped her hands to gather attention. "Today we honor Emma not just as a hero but as someone deserving of a future." Applause erupted. Yet, Emma stood frozen. Her mind raced as doubt spiraled. This was her moment, yet it tasted bittersweet. Would they ever truly see her? Or would she remain the maid in their narrative? As her name echoed in the crowd's cheers, Emma realized this was a pivotal moment. She could either take a leap of faith into this world that enthralled her or flee back to the safety of her grounded reality. Moments later, she felt a presence beside her. Jack, ever innocent, looking up with wide eyes. "Are you going to be my friend forever?" he asked earnestly. Emma's heart shattered and rebuilt in an instant. Ravenous hope and relentless fear battled inside her. As applause roared louder, drowning her thoughts, she faced the crowd, deciding in that fleeting moment what her answer would be. But even as the overwhelming emotions washed over her, one thought blared like a siren in her mind: did choosing to pursue her dreams mean losing the family she cherished? Just then, amidst the applause, a figure broke through the crowd, urgency sparking in his eyes. Emma turned, and there he stood, the billionaire who offered her the scholarship, his face twisted in concern. "Emma, we need to talk. It's urgent." What could possibly want to interrupt such a moment? Emma's heart raced with confusion, fear, and anticipation. What news could alter the course of her life so dramatically? Emma's breath hitched as she locked eyes with Thomas Blake, the billionaire whose scholarship loomed over her like a tantalizing yet daunting dream. His presence sliced through the applause, pulling her into a moment that felt achingly important. The crowd faded into a blur, leaving just the two of them, the noise of celebration muffled like a distant wave crashing against rocks. "Right now?" she managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. Her pulse quickened, confusion mixing with the swell of emotions that had already consumed her. "Please," he urged, glancing back at the crowd and then returning his focus to her, his eyes filled with urgency. "I need you to come with me." The words felt heavy and oddly out of place amid the glitz of the gala. Emma hesitated. She glanced back at Jack, whose sparkling eyes reflected innocence and hope. She felt a pulling in her chest, torn between her responsibilities and the promise of something more that hovered just out of reach. "Is everything okay?" Emma asked, concern spilling into her tone. "Sort of," he replied, glancing around again as if enemies lurked among the laughter. "What I have to tell you needs privacy. It's important." Emma gave Jack a reassuring smile, nodding at him as she took a step forward with Thomas, her heart racing. She squeezed his small hand one last time before following the billionaire deeper into the estate. They entered a small room, opulent yet snug, filled with plush furniture and intricate woodwork. With the door closed, the world outside melted away. "Emma, I'm sorry to pull you out of there," Thomas began, running a hand through his hair. His demeanor had shifted, the composed billionaire now appeared almost vulnerable. "There is something I need you to know, and I hope it doesn't change how you see yourself." Emma's interest peaked. "What is it?" "I've been working to create a foundation that supports individuals from backgrounds like yours. The scholarships, the opportunities, everything I do is to uplift those who, like you, show incredible potential despite their circumstances." Her brows furrowed as she absorbed his words. "A foundation? For her? I want you to be the first ambassador for it," he continued, intensity in his voice. "But I need you to understand it's more than just attending events. You'll help us inspire others, share your story. With everything your mother has faced, you can touch so many lives." Emma's heart soared, yet the weight of fear flooded back in. "This sounds amazing, Thomas, but I don't know if I'm ready for all that. What if I fail? What if I can't meet the expectations?" Thomas stepped closer. "You're already a hero, Emma. You have the heart to make a difference. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real and using your voice." His words warmed her, igniting a flicker of hope. This was an unexpected opportunity, a chance to break through the invisible barriers that confined her. But doubt lingered. "What if it takes me away from my family?" Emma managed to ask, vulnerability cracking her resolve. The image of her mother flashed through her mind, frail yet brave, the weight of her illness heavy in the background. "Your family can be part of it," he reassured her. "You don't have to choose. But staying where everyone knows you limits your growth. This could be the launch of something beautiful for you and for others." The possibilities swirled around her. Could she truly step into this world while holding on to her roots? The applause of the gala echoed in her ears, the questions of who she was and where she belonged tugging at her heart. Then, out of nowhere, a thought struck her with clarity. "What's in this for you, Thomas?" He hesitated, and the moment hung between them, full of unspoken truths. "Honestly, I've seen too many people in power forget the very struggles they come from. You remind me of what really matters." His honesty struck her, a rare bond forming in the midst of uncertainty. But just as she felt the shift inside, a sudden crash startled them both, followed by a rising tension filtering through the quiet room. "What was that?" Emma gasped, her instincts kicking in. Thomas stepped towards the door, looking back with urgency. "I have to keep you safe, Emma. We need to go now." The fear bubbling in her chest intensified, panic coursing through her veins. What fresh chaos awaited them outside? With a pounding heart, she followed as the narrative shifted yet again, sending ripples of intrigue through her already stormy reality. Was this the moment when everything would change? Thomas grabbed Emma's arm gently but firmly, leading her toward a side exit that she hadn't noticed before. The grandiosity of the gala faded into the background noise of rising concern. "Why are we running?" Emma asked, her voice a mix of fear and confusion. She could hear the muffled voices of partygoers murmuring, some laughing, completely oblivious to the tension crackling just outside the door. "Trust me," he said, his eyes darting as he led her down a narrow corridor, unmarked and dimly lit. "There's been a threat. I can't explain it all now, but it's serious." Emma's heart raced. Was this really happening? She thought of Jack, still in the main hall, and anger surged within her. What about everyone else? We can't just leave them. "I'll get to them," Thomas insisted, stopping momentarily to face her. "But right now, I need to get you to safety. You're more important than anyone else in that room." His sincerity was palpable, and for a split second, she considered the weight of his words. The pounding of footsteps on the marble floor jolted her back to reality. Let us go. She whispered urgently. They reached an exit that opened into a service alley, dark and narrow. Emma didn't have time to think about how strange it felt to be slipping out of a luxurious gala like a thief. The cold night air hit her face, a stark contrast to the warmth of the party. Where are we headed? She questioned, glancing back anxiously at the door they had just left behind. Just a block over. I have a car waiting, Thomas said, pulling her along. They sprinted down the alley, shadows dancing in the faint light of nearby street lamps. As they rounded a corner, the warmth of adrenaline coursed through her, but it was tinged with dread. What kind of threat? Emma asked, trying to keep pace with him. She kept her voice steady, masking the fear creeping into her tone. He hesitated, glancing back at her. I can't, but he was cut short by the sound of shattered glass, echoing in the night like thunder. Emma flinched, her body tensing instinctively. What was that? Just keep running. We're almost there. He urged, pumping his legs faster. Images of her mother flashed before her eyes, the fragile woman battling illness while Emma had fought battles of her own. What if this was it? What if she couldn't keep Thomas safe? A wave of despair washed over her, but she couldn't afford to falter. They reached the car, a sleek black sedan that barely matched the chaos unfolding around them. Thomas opened the rear door, ushering her inside before he slid in next to her. The driver, a stoic man with an earpiece, didn't waste a second. He started the engine, roaring to life as they sped away from the estate. Emma's heart raced as she turned to Thomas. What just happened? You can't leave me in the dark like this. I need to understand. He looked at her with a mixture of concern and respect. I promise you will. But first, we need to make sure you're safe, and then I'll explain everything. Silence enveloped them as they weaved through unfamiliar streets. Emma's mind churned with a whirlwind of questions. The events of the last half hour felt surreal. She had been on the edge of a monumental decision, and now, it was all crashing down around her. And then, just as she thought the adrenaline would ebb, Thomas's phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He answered, a tense expression darkening his features as he listened intently. What is it? Emma pressed, her heart pounding at the look on his face. Things are worse than I thought, he murmured, his eyes fixated on the window, the city lights flickering in his dark gaze. We need to change our plans with every passing moment. The stakes heightened. What could be worse than what they had just escaped? Emma's heart sank as she gripped the fabric of her dress, uncertainty swirling like a storm inside her. What awaited them in this new game of shadows? The car twisted through the narrow streets, the city lights blurring into streaks of color outside the window. Emma felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She glanced sideways at Thomas, who was still listening intently on the phone, his jaw set. The calmness he projected was at odds with the chaos surrounding them. Thomas, she began, but he raised a finger to silence her. His eyes bore into the distance, as if he could see beyond the glimmering lights. After a moment, he ended the call, running a hand through his hair. We have to go to the secondary location. There's been a breach at the safe house. The worry etched across his face sent chills down her spine. A breach? What does that mean? Emma's voice rose, fear twisting her insides. It means we're not safe anywhere yet. He turned toward her, his expression serious. I know it's a lot, but I need you to trust me completely from here on out. Lives are at stake, yours included. Her stomach dropped. What about Jack? He is still back there. Jack is an adult. He can handle himself. Right now, you're my priority. The intensity of his words lingered, echoing in the confines of the car. She felt a mix of anger and betrayal. How could he dismiss Jack so easily? But as they navigated through the unsettling shadows, she didn't have the energy to fight. It seemed like the world had turned upside down in mere moments, and she was caught in the whirlwind. The driver took a sharp turn, and Emma was thrown against the seat. She quickly regained her position, gripping the nylon seatbelt tightly. Where exactly are we going? To a diner on the edge of town. It's a regular spot for people like us, away from prying eyes. Thomas's tone softened a little. This is just temporary, Emma. I promise. I don't want to scare you, but right now, it's crucial. They drove in silence, and the weight of his promise settled heavily in the air. What had she signed up for? Each beat of her heart was a reminder of the unknown, of the danger lurking just out of sight. Finally, they pulled up to a small diner that gleamed under neon lights, an island of safety in the storm. It felt so ordinary, so light against the backdrop of turmoil. Thomas jumped out first, scanning the area before reaching back to help her out. Stay close to me, he instructed, his eyes scanning the parking lot. As they entered, the bell above the door chimed cheerfully, a stark contrast to the tension that wrapped around them. Inside, a few patrons sipped coffee, an elderly couple engaged in quiet conversation, and a waitress wiped down the counter. It felt surreal, standing there as if nothing was wrong. But the humming anxiety in Emma's chest told her a different story. Why here? She whispered, glancing around. Because it's inconspicuous. We can blend in, and it's close to the next safe location. He motioned to a table in the corner that provided a view of the entrance. As they sat down, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, although she could see no threats. Maybe it was just paranoia gripping her. Thomas noticed her unease. You okay? I feel trapped, she admitted, gripping the edge of the table. What is really happening, Thomas? His expression softened further, and for the first time, she saw the cracks beneath his composed exterior. I'll tell you everything. Just not here, not right now. We're not out of the woods yet. Before she could respond, the door swung open, and a figure stepped inside. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the silhouette just as a familiar voice called out. There you are. I was getting worried. Emma's heart thundered as she turned to face a wave of emotion washing over her. Jack stood there, breathless and wide-eyed, staring right at her. Jack! She shouted, rising instinctively, but Thomas's hand gripped her wrist tightly. Stay put, he ordered, eyes narrowed. This could be a trap. But Emma's mind raced, torn between trusting Thomas and the desperation to reach Jack. In that moment, the world spun again, and she felt the stakes rise even higher. What did this mean? Could they really be safe now? And was Jack a part of the danger or their salvation? As questions spiraled, doubt crept in, filling the silence that lingered in the air. Would their reunion lead to hope or deepen the chaos surrounding them? Emma felt like time froze as she stared at Jack, his face a mix of relief and confusion. She could hardly breathe. What was he doing here? A flurry of thoughts rushed through her mind, each one more alarming than the last. Jack! She called again, trying to shake off Thomas's grip. But he tightened his hold, his eyes darting around the diner, tense and vigilant. Emma, wait. He urged. We can't attract attention. Not now. Jack hadn't moved, still standing by the door, scanning the diner like a hawk searching for prey. Emma could see the furrow in his brow as he processed the scene. She could only imagine what was going through his head. He was probably wondering why she was with Thomas, and the why weighed heavy on her heart. Get down. Thomas hissed under his breath as he leaned closer to Emma, his eyes still narrowed, watching Jack intently. The urgency in his voice made her stomach churn. Why are you here, Jack? Emma whispered fiercely. She was terrified, but she needed to know. What happened at the safe house? Jack took a step toward their table, and her heart swelled with longing. I was looking for you. I tried calling, but stop. Just sit down. Thomas commanded, his tone sharp enough to cut. Emma's heartbeat quickened, and the air around them thickened. Jack looked taken aback. What is going on? Who is he? What did I walk into? Too many questions. Thomas snapped, his focus still scanning the diner. You don't get it. We're not safe. Emma's chest tightened. Jack, please. Just listen to him for a moment. I need you to stay calm. Jack's expression shifted from confusion to frustration. Calm? You think I can be calm? After what just happened? He took a breath, but she could see him straining against the tension, the fear creeping into his eyes. What are we doing here? Before Emma could answer, a group of 3 men barged into the diner, their laughter cutting through the tension like a knife. They sauntered to the counter, as casual as if they were there for a cup of coffee. But Emma sensed a predator's energy radiating from them, chaotic and dangerous. See? We're not the only ones here, Thomas murmured, his grip on Emma easing slightly, but his brows remained knitted together. We need to get Jack out of here now. What do you mean? Jack asked, still confused. Emma could see his breath quickening. Are they the threat? Just, trust me, Thomas urged, meeting her eyes. It was a mesmerizing look, filled with urgency, fear, and something else, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. She felt torn as she glanced back at Jack, his desperation mirrored in her own. Okay. But what's the plan? Jack pressed, swallowing hard. Emma could see him trying to connect the dots even as the atmosphere in the diner shifted. It was shifting fast, becoming electric with every passing second. We wait, Thomas said, voice low. For the right moment. Just stay alert. Emma nodded, her heart racing. She caught glimpses of the newcomers out of the corner of her eye but couldn't bring herself to look too closely. The diner had suddenly transformed from a tranquil refuge into a scene of impending confrontation. Minutes felt like hours, the tension thick in the air. Just then, one of the men turned, scanning the room with a predatory glare. Emma felt a chill race down her spine, and she fought every instinct to turn away. Is he here? The man asked, his voice low but laced with menace, making her blood run cold. Who? Jack whispered beside her, his tone sharp. Before Emma could respond, Thomas straightened, preparing for whatever might come next. I need you both to trust me, he said firmly. We might have to move quickly. Emma's thoughts raced, the urgency of the situation biting down hard. Would Jack and she be able to escape whatever threat loomed over them? Suddenly, the man's gaze landed right on their table, and the tension snapped like a rubber band. Let us go, Thomas commanded, his voice steady but electric with adrenaline. Emma felt her heart leap into her throat. Could they really make it out? What the hell is happening? Jack asked, panic rising in his voice. Now the stakes were at their highest. They were all about to find out just how deep this rabbit hole went. Emma's instincts kicked in as Thomas pulled her out of the booth. She instinctively grabbed Jack's arm, her fingers tightening around him as though he were a lifeline. The men seemed to be growing more aware, their laughter fading like distant thunder giving way to the storm. Stay close. She urged, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack shot her a bewildered look, but there was no time to explain. Thomas scanned the diner and nodded toward the back exit, a small door barely visible behind the counter. That way. Now. He practically tugged at her to follow his lead. As they moved, Emma tried to keep her focus on Jack. The weight of everything between them, the confusion, the fear, the longing almost made her falter. Instead, she pushed through, her heart hammering in her chest. They darted behind a row of booths, and Emma risked a glance at the men. One of them, with a tattoo slithering up his neck, was already turning toward them, eyes narrowing. That spark of recognition sent an icy chill through her. Go! Thomas shouted, his urgency sparking something primal within her. They slipped toward the exit, the thick aroma of coffee and greasy food washing over them like a veil. Jack stumbled slightly as they reached the door, a look of panic still plastered across his face. Emma, what is happening? He was breathing heavy, eyes wide. We'll explain later, she said, forcing herself to sound more confident than she felt. Nobody had time for explanations while danger lingered just outside the door. As they pushed through, Emma felt a rush of fresh air hit her skin, and with it, the pangs of freedom mingling with fear. The dingy parking lot outside the diner was empty except for a few cars, and the sky hung low and gray. "Where do we go?" Jack's voice cracked, each second that passed amplifying the urgency in his words. "Thomas, you need to tell him," Emma pleaded, her heart racing as the thundering of her pulse drowned out the surroundings. "We can't stay here," Thomas blurted. He was scanning the perimeter, eyes dark with focus. "Trust me. We need to get to my car." Jack looked between them, confusion still etched on his features. "You think they'll follow us?" "If they're looking for you, yes," Thomas replied. "And trust me, they don't play nice." Emma suddenly realized the gravity of what they were involved in. Jack had walked into a nightmare, and she was dragging him deeper into it. "I'm sorry, Jack," she whispered, meaning it more than she could express. Just then, she heard shouts from inside the diner, and one of the men burst through the door, pointing straight at them. "They're out back. Get them. Run!" Thomas yelled, and suddenly everything shifted into chaos. The three of them took off across the lot, Emma's heart pounding in tune with their frantic footfalls. She felt Jack's hand dart into hers, their fingers interlocked as they sprinted. It felt both reassuring and terrifying, the connection binding them even tighter as they bolted through the rain-soaked ground behind the diner. "Almost there," Thomas shouted as they hit the edge of the lot where his car stood just a few yards away. Emma's breath was coming in quick gasps, the fear spurring her on. She felt the weight of Jack's presence beside her. It was electric, a mix of dread and something she couldn't ignore. They reached the car, and Thomas fumbled with the keys, urgency painting his movements. "Get in," he commanded, shoving the door open. Jack climbed in next to Emma as Thomas hopped into the driver's seat, starting the engine with a roar. Emma turned to look at Jack, breathless. "We'll figure this out together." But the look on Jack's face held something darker, a worry that trampled her heart. His eyes bore the weight of something more significant than just fear. "I need to know what is going on, Emma now." Their pulse quickened, a new reality looming just ahead. Could they face whatever awaited them, or was this just the beginning of something darker? "Just hold on," Thomas said, speeding out of the parking lot. And as they pulled onto the rain-slick road, Emma felt the grip of uncertainty tighten, a question nagging at her: what had they truly walked into? The car roared down the deserted back roads, the headlights slicing through the gray mist. Emma pressed herself against the window, watching the blurred landscape pass by, each tree and sign a reminder of how quickly everything had spiraled out of control. Thomas's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, and the tension radiating from his body was almost palpable. "Talk to me, guys," Jack said, his voice breaking through the silence. He leaned forward, urgency sharpening his features. "What is going on? Why were those guys after me?" Emma swallowed hard, the gravity of their situation weighing heavily in her chest. "There's a lot you don't know, Jack. Those men, they're bad news. They've been looking for you." "Why?" Jack's eyes darted between them, searching for answers. "What have I done?" Thomas cut in, his voice steady amid the storm of fear. "It's not something you've done. It's who you are. They want something from you, something dangerous." The air turned thick with unspoken tension. Emma could feel Jack's confusion morphing into panic, and it twisted her heart. "What do you mean? What could they possibly want from me?" Jack demanded, a hint of despair edging into his voice. "We don't have the full picture," Thomas admitted, glancing in the rearview mirror, as if expecting shadows to leap from the woods. "But we think your family is involved in something deeper. Something you never knew about." Emma's stomach churned as Jack's expression shifted from bewilderment to suspicion. "What are you saying about my family? It's complicated." Emma's heart raced as she glanced at Thomas. "But you're tied to this in a way you don't understand. We have to keep you safe. Jack stared at her, his eyes searching for reassurance. Safe? From what? From who? You're not just dragging me along without explaining yourself. His uncertainty poured into the car, pressing down on Emma. She tightened her grip on her own knees, fighting the urge to reach for him again. I know it's overwhelming. But try to trust us. If we get caught, it won't just be us in danger. It could ruin everything. Jack ran a hand through his hair, frustration boiling over. You talk about trusting you as if I have a choice. I'm scared, Emma. I don't understand any of this. The car swerved slightly, and Thomas's eyes widened. Just breathe. We're going to find a safe place to regroup. With every turn, the landscape shifted from familiar to ominous. A sense of dread coiled around them, thickening the air. Emma's heart sank as she realized they would not escape unscathed. As they pulled into a small roadside motel, barely lit and half forgotten, Emma sensed the gravity of their decision. This isn't just about running anymore. This is about fighting for the truth, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Thomas parked the car and turned to both of them, determination setting his jaw. We need to figure out what we're dealing with. We need to dig into your family, Jack, but we have to be careful. Jack nodded, but his face was still clouded with fear. And what if they catch up to us? What happens then? That's why we're here, Emma said, her voice firmer than she felt. We'll find out what they want before they do. We're not letting them take you. Not again. As they got out of the car, a cold breeze shifted through the air, tugging at Emma's resolve. They were stepping into uncharted territory, a battleground that bore the stakes of their lives. Jack hesitated on the edge of the parking lot, gazing back at the road, uncertainty playing in his features. What if there's no way out of this? Then we'll make our own way, Thomas assured him, a flicker of fire igniting in his eyes. Emma reached for Jack's arm again, grounding herself in the warmth of their connection. We'll face this together, Jack. No matter what comes next. But deep down, a gnawing fear clawed at her. What if they weren't strong enough to confront the truth? Just as they made their way toward the motel entrance, a dark silhouette emerged in the distance at the edge of the trees. Emma's heart dropped as she realized they weren't safe yet. Would they finally uncover the darkness hiding behind Jack's past, or would they be too late? The shadow in the distance loomed larger, and Emma's breath felt trapped in her throat. She could barely make out a figure moving through the fog, but it was enough to send adrenaline surging through her body. We need to get inside now. Her voice shook slightly as she pulled Jack toward the motel door. Thomas scanned the area before following them in. Every instinct screamed at him to stay vigilant. The wooden door creaked as they stepped into the dimly lit lobby, and a musty smell assaulted their senses. The clerk behind the counter looked up, his eyes glazed, yet a flicker of curiosity crossed his face. Do you have a room? Thomas asked, trying to keep his tone casual, masking the tension underlying his words. Sure. Just one left. $50 a night, the clerk drawled, barely moving from his post. Thomas fished out the cash, the bills trembling slightly in his hand. As the clerk handed over a key, Jack leaned in close to Emma, whispering, What do we do if they come after us here? Emma couldn't meet his gaze, uncertain. We'll figure it out. Just, stay close. We'll get through this. The urgency pressed on her voice. They headed up the rickety staircase, the creaking boards echoing their fears. The room was small, with faded wallpaper peeling at the corners. A flickering light bulb cast eerie shadows as they took in their surroundings. Okay, we need to think, Thomas said, setting the key down beside the worn-out bed. Jack, tell us everything you can remember about your family. Anything at all. Jack hesitated, his brows knitted in concentration. I don't know much. My parents never talked about their past. Just, told me to stay out of trouble and focus on school. That's it. But I always felt something wasn't right. Like there was something bigger they were hiding. Emma could see the fear mingled with frustration in Jack's eyes. You have to dig deeper. There's a reason those men were after you, and it's tied to them. What if it was something terrible? Jack's voice broke, an edge of panic creeping back in. What if I'm mixed up in something awful? Then we face it together, Emma said fiercely, squeezing his hand. We can't run forever, we need to stand and fight. Just then, a loud bang echoed from outside, followed by the sound of footsteps crunching on gravel. They exchanged glances, hearts pounding in unison. What if they found us? Jack whispered, his eyes wide with fear. Thomas moved to the window, peering out through the thin curtains. I don't see anyone, but that doesn't mean anything. We have to be ready. Emma's heart raced as she leaned against the wall, her mind racing with possibilities. Were these men connected to something more sinister? She glanced at Jack, seeing the uncertainty mixed with a desperate need for reassurance. I won't let them hurt you, she promised, her voice steady, even as her own fears threatened to shake her confidence. In that tense moment, they heard a loud shout, followed by what sounded like a car door slamming. Emma's heart sank. Someone was outside, maybe more than one. Then, with a crash, someone kicked the door, splintering the wood. Emma's breath hitched as she reached for Jack, pulling him close. Thomas squared his shoulders, instinctively putting himself between them and the door. Whatever happens, don't let go, Emma whispered, looking into Jack's eyes. But doubt clawed at her. What if this was it? With another kick, the door buckled, and Emma braced herself for the worst. Suddenly, all the questions they had remained unanswered about the men after Jack, the secrets buried deep within his family. Would they find the truth, or would they be too late? As the door burst open and darkness spilled into the room, Emma knew they were about to dive headfirst into the unknown. Everything was about to change. The door crashed open, splintering the wood as shadowy figures flooded the room. Emma's heart raced, adrenaline pumping through her veins. She clutched Jack tighter, her eyes trained on the intruders. Thomas stood unwavering, a wall of determination between them and the unknown danger. Get back! One of the men barked, stepping forward. His imposing figure blocked the fading light from the hallway, and it sent a shiver down Emma's spine. But she stood her ground, unwilling to show fear. Jack's grip on her tightened. Who are you? Thomas demanded, stepping closer, protective instinct flaring. No one you need to worry about, the man replied, a sinister smile twisting his lips. We're just here for the boy. Emma's heart dropped. What do you want with him? She snapped, fury roaring to the surface. The man chuckled, like he was amused by the confrontation. He doesn't even know, does he? Family secrets can be so messy, especially when they get out. The words hung in the air, heavy with threat. Get out! Emma shouted, voice rising. You have no right to come here. Thomas tensed, eyes darting between the men. We're not going anywhere, he said firmly, making it clear he wouldn't allow them to take Jack, but the man shrugged. We don't need you to cooperate. We just need the kid. He nodded, and two others stepped forward, muscles taut and predatory. Emma felt a surge of bravery. No. She pushed Jack behind her. You won't take him. With a swift motion, one of the men lunged, but Thomas reacted faster, knocking him to the side. Run! He yelled at Emma and Jack, urgency boiling in his veins. They dashed for the window, but it was too late. The other intruder grabbed Emma by the arm. She screamed, but quickly twisted away, breaking free. Jack followed her, sprinting out into the cold night air, their feet pounding the pavement as they bolted down the road. Breathing hard, they raced towards the trees at the edge of the parking lot. Come on! Thomas shouted, already following closely behind. We need to get to my car. Just as they neared the trees, Emma heard shouting behind them. Panic surged in her chest, but Thomas kept urging them on. This way. he yelled, leading them through the brush. They reached the clearing where Thomas had parked the sedan. They all jumped in, and Emma glanced back at the motel, heart racing. They'll find us, she cried, fear tightening around her. Thomas started the engine, eyes flashing with determination. Not if we move fast. As the car sped down the winding road, Emma caught Jack's wide gaze, filled with questions. What just happened? Why were they after me? Emma turned slightly in her seat, the determination hardening in her heart. They're looking for you because of your family, Jack. There is something dark that they want to control, something you're part of. He looked down, processing. I never knew. We need to figure out what is going on, stick together, and fight this, Emma said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. We can't let fear control us anymore. We're heroes too, just different kind. Jack finally nodded, a flicker of resolve igniting behind his tear-stained lashes. I need to find out the truth. Emma smiled, the warmth in her chest blooming despite the fear. Together, we can do this. The night air whipped past them as they drove further, the city lights fading into the darkness behind. Just then, Thomas's phone rang. It's urgent, he said, and without hesitation, he answered. After a moment, his expression shifted. We need to change course. They found out where we are. Emma's heart raced again. They were running out of time. What do we do now? Jack asked, his voice trembling. Thomas glanced back at them, the concern mounting. We fight back, but we need help. If we can reach the right people, we can expose everything. Who? Emma asked, pressing her palms together. Who can we trust? A journalist, Thomas said, determination firing in his voice. She's the only one who can get the truth out without getting us caught. But we need to be smart. Emma took a deep breath. Okay, let us go find her. We can't let them keep running our lives like this. As they drove into the unknown, the fear and danger fueled a fire within Emma. They were no longer just running. Now, they were ready to take control of their story. The shadow of their past loomed ahead, but for the first time, Emma felt hope. They were in this together now. They could conquer whatever lay in their path. And as the sun began to rise in the distance, turning the sky shades of orange and purple, she felt a sense of clarity. This was only the beginning, and together, they would find their truth. When they finally understood, this fight wasn't just for themselves, it was for everyone who had ever felt powerless. And they were ready to change the narrative. Now is the time for you to make a change. If you want to see more incredible stories like this, you need to subscribe immediately to our channel. Don't miss the next exclusive tales that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. You make a difference. Comment your thoughts, reactions, and feelings about this intense ending. It's your voice that counts, and wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel in this way.